Python logging, disable logging from imported modules. I'm using the Python logging module and would like to disable log messages printed by the third-party modules that I import. For example, I'm using something like the following. This prints out my debug messages when I do a logger.debug my message, but it also prints out the debug messages from any module I import, such as requests and a number of other things. I'd like to see only the log messages from modules I'm interested in. Is it possible to make the logging module do this? Ideally, I'd like to be able to tell the logger to print messages from module X, module Y, and ignore all others. I looked at the following, but I don't want to have to disable/enable logging before every call to an imported function. Logging, how to ignore imported module logs.
The problem is that calling getlogger without arguments returns the root logger, so when you set the level to logging.debug, you are also setting the level for other modules that use that logger. You can solve this by simply not using the root logger. To do this, just pass a name as argument, for example the name of your module. This will create a new logger and thus it won't inadvertently change logging level for other modules. Obviously you have to use logger.debug instead of logging.debug, since the latter is a convenience function that calls the debug method of the root logger. This is mentioned in the advanced logging tutorial. It also allows you to know which module triggered the log message in a simple way.
I was getting debug logs from matplotlib despite following the pretty straightforward documentation at the logging advanced tutorial. And the troubleshooting. I was initiating my logger in main of one file and importing a function to create a plot from another file, where I had imported matplotlib. What worked for me was setting the level of matplotlib before importing it, rather than after as I had for other modules in my main file. This seemed counterintuitive to me, so if anyone has insight into how you can set the config for a logger that hasn't been imported yet, I'd be curious to find out how this works. In my main file, in my plot.py file,
if you're going to use the Python logging package, it's a common convention to define a logger in every module that uses it. Many popular Python packages do this, including requests. If a package uses this convention, it's easy to enable/disable logging for it, because the logger name will be the same name as the package, or will be a child of that logger. You can even log it to the same file as your other loggers.
This disables all existing loggers, such as those created by imported modules, while still using the root logger, and without having to load an external file. Note that you need to import all modules you don't want logged first. Otherwise those won't be considered as existing loggers. It will then disable all loggers from those modules. This might lead you to also miss out on important errors. For more detailed examples using related options for configuration, see this URL, and here is a partially working Example using yum for config with the coloredlog library.
If you want to see